Hey guys, it's Flower Woman here. So everyone knows by now who is my favorite K-pop boy band. However, not many of you have heard who is my favorite K-pop girl group. I'll tell you all about them today. They're not a group you're likely to have heard of. We'll be stepping back into a time when K-pop wasn't so well known outside of South Korea, when the likes of TVXQ were the top dogs in the industry, Super Junior had just debuted, and the days when BTS were still in elementary school. I'll be telling you all today about my favorite K-pop girl group of all time who are criminally underrated to this very day. We're talking about the lovely ladies of CSJH the Grace, or simply known as the Grace for short. The Grace were a four-member girl group made up of Dana, Sunday, Stephanie, and Lena that debuted April 29th, 2005. They were a group under SM Entertainment, and they were intended to be the female counterpart of TVXQ. And to say the least, they were definitely a good choice. These girls were different and unique from the usual groups at the time, where people preferred boy bands and the occasional cutie girl group. These ladies were mature, sexy, and highly skilled in dance and vocals. And it's no surprise, Dana had her debut before The Grace in 2001 as a soloist. Her first songs, Until the End of the World and Diamond, who she collaborated with a pre-debut Youngho of TVXQ, had found moderate success. Oh, and just to mention, it's rumored that Donghae of Super Junior was a backup dancer in Diamond. It would be cool to get some actual confirmation on that one. Personally, I love those songs. Sadly, however, her second album, Maybe, sold poorly, so she was brought back in for more training and then re-debuted later with The Grace. Next was Lena, who was originally part of the short-lived R&B duo Isak and Jin Young. However, the duo only released one album in 2002 called Tell Me Baby. It's rather a shame that they weren't so successful because I rather like the song Tell Me Baby. Next member was Korean-American Stephanie from California. She trained 11 years as a ballerina, but then moved to South Korea to start a singing career, and became probably the most popular member in the group for her sharp, sexy dancing that she'd showcase in many variety shows, gaining her the nickname of Dancing Queen. And last but certainly not least, we have Sunday, who was lesser known at the time, but I found out before debut she had released 2 Japanese singles, which I'm just going to list right here on the screen because I can't speak Japanese and I don't want to mess up any pronunciations or anything. So anyway, with this amazing group, with Dana and her powerhouse vocals, Lena with her deeper powerhouse vocal, Sunday with her softer, delicate voice, and Stephanie, who is an awesome dancer and has a deep, fierce singing voice, they balanced each other out perfectly, provided great chemistry, and had all the talent anyone could ask for in a group. They were a recipe for success. And yet, they never obtained the superstar status they deserved. Now, I wouldn't call them a complete failure. They had a pretty decent-sized fan base called the Shapley back in the day, but it didn't reach the numbers necessary for SM. I'm happy to see still so many people remember them online and mourn the loss of such a talented group. So what happened? Everyone blames SM naturally for their failures. Others say it was Stephanie's back injury in 2010 that ended the group. Others say it was because they debuted at the wrong place at the wrong time. Even more say they didn't release enough catchy songs. For myself, I believe it was a mix of circumstances. They debuted with 2 songs, Too Good and Boomerang, and while they were good songs, they just didn't have that edge that was needed to have launched them into the spotlight. Too Good was a pretty but rather run-of-the-mill ballad, and Boomerang, while it is a good catchy song and had a cool music video and interesting choreography, it just didn't have that particular edge either that would be needed for a debut song. They were also shipped off to Japan to promote a Japanese version of Boomerang, which only ranked around 110 in the Oricon charts. Also during that time around in 2006, they promoted songs in China, though I can't really find any info on how well the songs charted there. Around in March 2006, they released their follow-up single, The Club, featuring the Japanese rapper Shamo, which personally I love the song, though it still didn't have enough edge that would be needed to bring them into the spotlight, but it was a step up from Boomerang. They also released a Korean version of the song featuring Rain, but promoted it very briefly, which of course meant it didn't chart very highly back home and barely gave them any exposure. Speaking of the club, I'm gonna make a bit of a detour here because I gotta get this off my chest. I never understood what on earth the music video for the club was about. They're in a limo with some random guy. He looks kind of creepy, like some shady producer trying to take advantage of pretty, naive, or maybe not so naive girls. And the camera keeps switching between that guy and the driver who keeps looking confused, and the girls are fighting for the creepy producer's attention. And then they crash into another limo or something, and there's another guy laughing, and then they walk away. I don't get it. It was weird and so confusing. If anyone knows or has any idea on what the story was meant to be about, can you explain? Because it's been driving me crazy for years. Anyway, back to the Grace in their career. Similar problems kept showing up for them in the types of songs they kept releasing. Next up in Japan, they released Sweet Flower, which in my opinion was kind of meh, and clearly everyone in Japan agreed, as it charted really low at 151 on the Oricon chart. It was one of those songs that is nice sounding, but it would have been better as a non-title track rather than a main single. As well, I don't like the video much either. It was kind of boring. Things didn't get much better either, as they released another low-charting song in Japan, the reggae-style track Juicy Love featuring Cornhead, which honestly was and still is my least favorite song by them. Just something about the rhythm gets me, and the video was kind of lazy, with the girls attempting to do a belly dance for half of it. And Stephanie really didn't suit that frizzy hairstyle. Glad they got rid of that one fast. I'm all for experimenting with different styles, but reggae just doesn't suit the Grace at all. The song also charted really low at around 161, even worse than Sweet Flower, and sadly it was no surprise. It was a complete and total misstep. Things started getting a little bit better when they went back to Korea again. SM decided to bring the girls back to what they're really good at, and they released a much better My Everything, with a more, so to speak, graceful image. My Everything was a gorgeous ballad track that literally makes you feel like you're in heaven when listening to it. The music video was really simple yet beautiful, featuring former Super Junior member Kpop in the video along with Girls' Generation's Yuna. It was simple yet perfect in every way, from the song to the setting in the music video to the styling. This is where I have to disagree with the masses. I mean, how could this song have only hit number 30 in the Korean charts? Were people deaf? It was amazing! However, good things finally came upon the girls when they released in 2007 Hamanda OK, or One More Time OK. The single and album of the same name was their most successful to date, and it's no surprise. It was a song that finally had the edge that the Grace desperately needed. It was catchy, made you want to dance, and at the same time utilized their talents at the fullest with cool choreography and a super awesome video. Everything was on point, from the outfits to dancing in those brightly colored rooms, and of course Stephanie jumping forward in a hoodie to do her solo dance at the bridge. I don't think the pole dancing bit was necessary. Of course now it's mild and PG compared to what we get today, but it would have been quite shocking for everybody back in the day. I wouldn't be surprised if SM was trying to get attention by pushing the envelope a little bit. I don't know if the video got banned though, did it? If anyone knows, tell me. However, the whole package worked, as the single was their most successful ever, and is even being covered by other groups like Sistar and Sunmi. It really showed off the Grace's unique style that always outdid everyone else's covers, as good as they are, of course. But just something about the Graces, they just left a mark on it that can't be outdone by anyone. The same album also had the song Just for One Day, featuring Super Junior's Kyuhyun, which personally I preferred that version slightly more to the Japanese version with the former member of TVXQ, Jaejung. Maybe it's partly due to my bias for Super Junior, but also I felt Kyuhyun's voice really blended well with all four girls, and listening to it makes me wish the Grace would do a collab with Super Junior one day, especially now that Super Junior have their own label and can pretty much do what they want. Anyway, Dancer in the Rain was the second single released from the album, though they didn't promote it as much as One More Time OK, which caused it to chart lower. Big mistake. It has such a cool, sexy music video with those awesome leopard print outfits and the dancing in that pool area. Of course, we can't forget the bit when Lena throws water on what I assume is her cheating boyfriend. That was too funny. But just when the girls finally gained attention in their home country, SM had to cut the success short and made the massive mistake of shipping them off to Japan again to release a Japanese version of One More Time OK on the album The Graceful 4. They made another cool video for the song with the girls dancing in front of cool race cars in the middle of a party. I'd love to know where in Japan they have those parties. I want to go to one. And there was one awesome cane dance at the bridge. Again, the outfits were really on point. Their styles really deserved a reward. I can't get enough of the outfits, especially Lena's jumpsuit and hat. Piranha was their next Japanese single off of the same album. Powerful, sexy dancing again with great vocals, and they just killed it in their live stages. Again, it didn't chart high enough, as it should have. It only got up to number 50, which again, I'm thinking people were either asleep or completely deaf at the time, because the songs were awesome. How could they have been so overlooked? But those last few songs, you really saw the Grace coming into their own, and it really showed as to what made them such a high quality and amazing group. A huge part of their uniqueness was the way that they were sexy in the classiest of ways. I mean, if you want to see sexy done right, you look at the Grace. It's not like today where most female pop stars, and I'm not gonna say any specific names in case I get murdered, though you can all probably figure out who I'm referring to. They just twerk their butts or strip and grind in the skimpiest outfits they can find. And while, of course, a lot of the Grace's outfits were really sexy, they weren't wearing just their underwear and grabbing their crotches and dancing in the most vulgar ways, or wearing shorts and skirts that are completely impractical and way too tight and short that they have to tug at it all the time. But there was also more of an art to their dancing. It's really hard to describe in words, but it's those subtle movements in the choreography mixed with a ton of confidence. It was never cheap, easy, or vulgar. There was obvious effort put into it, and it's incredibly, graceful. That's the type of style that's desperately needed right now in both Western and current K-pop, in my opinion. Remember guys, this is only my humble opinion. Their last album ever released was the Japanese album Dear in 2009. That album was their most successful in Japan, peaking at number 14. It contained stand-up people, near thoughtful, here, and a little bit of good. All the songs seemed to have reached a decent amount of success each, and were all great in their own ways. A Little Bit of Good was another one of their gorgeous ballads, showing the girls driving through nature in an old car. It was all just so relaxing, just watching it. Here shows them in a little music box, which is a pretty accurate representation of them, and it was wound up so that they would end up singing. Oh, it was so cute. Near Thoughtful or Near Thoughtful 1220, which I don't understand what those numbers stand for, features an opening by Stephanie, which was a little cheesy, but the song itself was nice, with another simple, laid-back music videos of the girls looking sad around a pool, missing their boyfriends. And lastly, I believe this was the last song that they ever released, Stand Up People, which featured their sexy but classy choreography again and a rap by Stephanie. And I believe that was the only time we ever heard a rap from her. But along with that, the song was just so upbeat and perfect for disco. And again, I love their outfits in the video. However, around that time, their main dancer Stephanie had a serious back injury and obviously couldn't perform, so she was sent back to California to recover. And that seemed to put the girls on a permanent hiatus from 2010 onwards. SM by then had already put their energy and focus on Girls' Generation, who debuted around in 2007, so they didn't have much time for the Grace anymore. They did try to launch a subgroup with Dana and Sunday in 2011, and I remember when it was released. I was happy to see the girls back, but I was not so happy with the music video and song. It was clear they were trying to get them up to date with the current K-pop style at the time. One More Chance was catchy, but it was not up to their standard at all. Auto-tune galore, and a departure from their amazing fashion to some really ugly stuff that should have been left at the back of the closet for eternity. What were they thinking? Looked like as if they just grabbed whatever was left over from FX or Girls' Generation. And a lot of thought that the lyrics were clever and talking against superficiality, which is a little bit hypocritical of SM, but whatever. Though I just didn't find it that clever. And just in general, the song was not suited to their style. Especially after learning that the song was most likely a hand-me-down from FX. Just felt like SM was lazily throwing stuff at the girls and trying to update the Grace and make them more appealing to a modern audience, rather than keeping them in the image that actually suited them. They released another song, First Americano, which was only okay, and it fell flat. After that, they really have been on a permanent hiatus with not really much news on what any of the members are doing. So, as you saw there, they were constantly being shipped in between countries the whole time, constantly. Korea, Japan, China, and while it may have worked for other groups such as soloist BoA and TVXQ, not everything works for the same artist. And it was clear just by looking at what was going on there. Every time they'd finally gotten some interest in any country, they were just shipped off again to the other. It's not a good business practice. The next mistake was not giving them the right songs. As I said, Boomerang and The Club, among others, were good, but they didn't have the edge that was needed to catch everyone's attention. And while I appreciate experimenting with different genres, Sweet Flower and Juicy Love were really lackluster choices. I believe if they debuted immediately with One More Time OK around in 2007 or 2008, they would have had the success that was needed immediately. And it stayed around to promote more songs like Dancer in the Rain, and maybe one more song like the non-titled track Renew, which seems to be one of the most popular tracks on their album. That would have been a lot better. They would have needed it because unlike BoA or TVXQ, they were something very different for the time. Instead of being the classic cutie girls, which I know are the most popular in K-pop and J-pop, the Grace were mature and sexy, so it was even more important to promote them in Korea rather than playing musical countries all the time. And also, I don't think it helped that SM were marketing them before their debut as a female counterpart to TVXQ, because for some reason in K-pop, they don't seem to like it when their male idols are a bit too close with female idols, and they get very uncomfortable if the idols are dating each other, and I don't understand it. I really don't. And so it already kind of raised the hackles of TVXQ fans. And I believe that Stephanie's back injury was just a final nail in the coffin, which it all collided with Girls' Generation's promotions, which of course was no one's fault at the end. Girls' Generation was a bit more appealing to South Korea, and they'd already taken off much more successfully. Now, maybe if Stephanie hadn't suffered that back injury, the Grace could have continued for a while, but sadly, without her, the group couldn't continue. Since one of the best things about the Grace were their different voice types, it gave them a perfect balance. Dana and Sunday with their lighter, softer voices, Lena and Stephanie with their deeper, fiercer voices, which was why I think the subunit just didn't work as well. It felt imbalanced, along with them being reduced to singing a throwaway auto-tuned pop song. It just wasn't a good move at all. So what's the future for the Grace? I think sadly at this point they're more or less done. Probably a reunion could happen one day, which I would love to see, but I just don't think they could go back to what they were doing full-time at this point. All the members are doing different things as well at the moment. Lena for a while was working in many musicals such as Temptation of the Wolves, Fame, and Jekyll and Hyde. She's now married to musical director Jang Seong-jo, who she tied the knot with in 2014, and they welcomed their first child in September 2018. She is still doing musicals and did a collab with her bandmate Stephanie in 2019 called Say It, which, by the way, was amazing. She so far isn't planning on releasing any solo songs herself, as she apparently said somewhere on social media she wasn't confident enough to do a solo, which personally I think is a shame as she has a beautiful voice, but I'm hoping she and Stephanie or one of the other members can do more collabs in the future. Dana, while she was still under SM Entertainment, was a vocal coach for a few years and a musical actor too, and ended up releasing a solo song after 13 years in 2016 under SM's project, SM Station. The song was called Touch You, and it was a great song. However, it had such a boring and lazy video, which didn't do the song justice at all. She also had her own reality TV show called Daynalda, sorry if I mispronounced that, in 2018, which followed Dana losing weight after having a massive weight gain that she had while suffering from depression. She said that she started to suffer from depression after a bad breakup and the death of a close friend who was a student that she mentored. The show had relative success along with her weight loss. However, the success was short-lived as Dana sparked controversy during a live stream when she lashed out at fans for not working hard enough to get her songs to #1 on the charts, which is why she couldn't release an album. Then she apparently after a fan made a comment using the Korean word for middle finger. Dana showed that in response and even wielded a knife when asked what she'd do with trolls. She was also asked in what I think was a different live stream if the Grace were going to return with a new album. She responded angrily saying, "How can we work on a CSJH album when all of our companies are different?" Lena is also negative towards the prospects of a new album. Lena dislikes promoting as a singer now, I think. Even if it's not for a reunion, yeah, we can still see one another, but Stephanie has become unreachable, so I don't know how to reach her. Understandably, she was upset and not in a good mental state, probably due to the state of her career and potentially things were going on behind the scenes and in her personal life we don't know about. So she was lashing out and saying things that I don't think she probably meant. However, it did upset the fans a lot in return. She released an apology through SM in order to make amends, though afterwards she disappeared, until it was announced that she had ended her contract with SM in 2020, after being with them for 19 years. It's currently unknown what she is planning on doing now that her contract has ended. However, she has brought back her Instagram recently and seems to have a new YouTube channel up, so could potentially be planning on making YouTube videos. I'll be watching with interest to see what will come of it. Maybe some independent solo efforts, since for all we know, now she has full creative control. As for Sunday, she is working as a musical actress with roles in musicals such as Zorro and Rock of Ages. The last song she released was also under SM Station called Still in 2016, and it was a collab with Dick Punk member Kim Taehyun. She too left SM Entertainment January 2021 after 20 years with the company. As of right now, she is very active on Instagram and seems to be enjoying the married life with her non-celebrity husband, who she married in July 2020. And last but certainly not least, Stephanie. She was for years in California as a ballerina in the Los Angeles Ballet. She then debuted under Mafia Records as a soloist in 2012 with The New Beginning, which was a really cool track, and I really loved the choreography and just everything about it. Then she released more songs in 2015, such as Blackout and Prisoner, and she released Man on the Dance Floor in 2019, among others. She's released more songs here or there, such as Say It, with Lena, as I mentioned earlier. Stephanie's solo songs, personally for me, were hit or miss. I really only liked Blackout from her 2015 album, though the music video again was so boring. I was kind of hoping she was going to do gymnastics or ballet, but she was only just stretching, with the camera being pointed in some very awkward directions. But hey, that's just me again. Again, guys, only my opinion. As far as I can tell, she seems to be mostly focusing on ballet and makes a lot of television appearances as far as I can see from her Instagram. She is currently dating former Major League Baseball player Brandy Anderson, who is 23 years her senior. She did say they aren't planning on marrying as of right now. However, I wish the couple luck in the future. Stephanie, as well, was the first member to have left SM Entertainment after her contract with them ended in May 2016. So as of making this video, Lena is the only one who still has a contract with SM. I do expect her to leave too once it expires, just like everyone else. Even though it's sad to have seen them leave, it didn't surprise me at all, as they were pretty much kept in the dungeon for many years, especially after Stephanie suffered back injury. And SM completely wasted their talent through poor management, giving them the wrong songs for a while, and just in general not utilizing their talents properly. It's a shame, as in my opinion, they're one of the best girl groups ever out there, and many people come to K-pop never having heard of them. I hope one day they can get back together, whether as a duo, trio, or all together again, or even hear more solos from them. I highly recommend you check out their songs, even the solos that the girls have released, as they are just masterpieces that aren't worth being looked over. I'm going to link some in the description, in fact, so please check it out. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. I feel passionate about talking about the Grace, as they barely get any attention anymore, even by underrated group standards. I mean, heck, even Spica and FX have more people talking about them. No hate, by the way. I actually love them too. Just making a statement. As I said, I'll link some of their songs in the description for you guys to check out. These girls are criminally underrated and they just don't deserve it. Also, I'm still hoping to see a collab between one of the girls or all of them as a group with Super Junior one day. That would be awesome. Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe, and follow all my social media that is listed in the description down below. This is the Flower Woman at Lotus Petal Studios, and I'll see you all later.